Off property in public. What does that have to do with home defense, home security, whatever? We tend to think about these topics as separate, but there's something in common with you being a good self-defender out in public and you being a good self-defender in your house. What is that commonality?
MagTech has maintained their high quality during the ammo panic and ramped production to the max. Their ammo is the only ammo I run on the range because of its performance and reliability. I recommend MagTech wholeheartedly.
Can you drag trouble back to your house? You bet you can. And so, avoidance. Probably the worst, the worst example of this, and this happens probably every day in America, is road rage. I'm driving through a parking lot, or somebody cuts me off, I almost hit somebody because they don't look when they're backing out. We exchange words, we exchange hand gestures because, we're super mature. And then I live 5 minutes away from the old Safeway back up in Washington where I used to live. And so I leave the grocery store, I drive home, I don't think anything of it, I just drive off, and then all of a sudden I pull in my driveway, and as I get out of the car and I get 1 foot on the ground, I realize that somebody has pulled into my driveway, blocked me in, and is coming at me, and they're about this far away, and I'm about to fight. So our actions, in a myriad of ways, can affect our situation at home. What would be even worse than that? I'll tell you what, for me, would be even worse than that. What if that person just decided to follow me past my house, and let's say that I just happened to get into a road rage incident with, Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, violent criminal actor of your choice, and he just drives by and sees where I pull in my house and says, oh, okay, cool. And then he decides to come back at 2 in the morning, or he decides to wait a month. And so paying attention to situational awareness, William April and I want to say Farnham, a number of people have quantified it as just pay attention to who's around you and what they're doing. So particularly if you have some kind of interaction, weird interaction in any way, unusual interaction in any way, meaning somebody was just being, you're at Hanover, they're asking you questions and whatever, and man, that was weird. I'm gonna go ahead and get in my car, I'm gonna leave the shopping mall because that dude seemed kind of off. Don't get in your car and imagine you're in a bubble. Pay attention to, who's behind you, what's going on. And then if you do have somebody following you turn for 13 turns, are you gonna go to your house? And here's the thing. With a lot of this stuff, I'm providing you kind of a menu of options, and maybe there's a world where that's the right answer. I personally wouldn't, because I'm me, and I'm not going to take somebody who I think is following back to where I live and where my children sleep and where my wife is. But yeah, that's of course the classic, go to the police station, pull into the police station parking lot. If they're still following you, go into the front of the police station, say, hey, that dude is following me. But pay attention and don't drag trouble from in public back to your house. It's bad if it manifests itself right then. It's probably even worse if you just highlight where you live to somebody by dragging trouble back. So as far as what your options are for not dragging trouble back home, but then also let stuff go. Don't get into interactions with people, don't get into confrontations with people where they might decide to go ahead and follow you to wherever you're going, which happens to be your house. Use your head, is it worth it? I walk in front of somebody accidentally in the shopping lot, shopping mall parking lot, and they're like, hey, F you, and I'm like, yep, F me, man, sorry, my bad. Who cares? And then I go on living my life, and the guy doesn't follow me and stab me in my front yard. Deterrence. Frankly, it doesn't take much. Has anybody in here taken coursework from William April? I know Stephanie has. The ugly and real truth of deterrence off property and in public, it doesn't take much. And can anybody guess why that is? Why it doesn't take much generally to deter a violent criminal actor, assuming you're not doing anything to really draw attention to yourself, rolling around flashing your diamond-encrusted Rolex or whatever else. But assuming you're more or less like everybody else, I walk out of a shopping center, and there's two young criminals basically looking for somebody to follow them to their car, get them in between 2 cars, knock them out, take their purse, take the stuff they just bought. It's Best Buy, let's say. I walk out. I've got my head up. My phone in my pocket, a confident gait, shoulders back. I walk out, and not staring people down, but I walk out, I look at them and kind of do one of these and keep walking. So take my size and everything else out of it. Because don't be wrong, that does help. If you're a 5 foot tall, 100-pound female, if you've got a real, like you've got an injured gait from an injury, any kind of vulnerabilities, it's just like nature, right? The lion goes after the wounded gazelle. That makes it tougher. But showing that you're aware, showing that you're confident, like basically, I see you. You're not gonna sneak up on me. If your plan was to like roll up and like catch up to me right as I got to my car, it's not gonna happen because I see you. And then my head's on a swivel, my head's up, my head's not buried in my phone. Even violent criminal actors. I'll tell you, one of the most, what's the word I want to use? One of the most reliable predictors of human behavior is human laziness. Human beings love convenience. So basically, love convenience is essentially, you've got me and then you've got somebody else who's the same size, same musculature, everything else. One of us is like, lazy walk, on our phone, slumped shoulders, just not paying attention, and I'm pushing a cart with a big TV in it or whatever it is, high value item in my cart, and then somebody else does what I just described. Like, what are you going to do if you're a violent criminal actor? Do you want to go after the guy who's going to be a challenge? Frankly, that's really rare, even among the violent criminal actor. It's not like, oh, I want to go after the hardest target. No, they want to do. They can sneak up on, knock out, and get paid, and move out, earn their, go cash that check. And so the sad truth is that when it comes to deterring violent criminal actors off property and in public, a large part of it is I don't know if you've heard the old joke about, well, how are you going to outrun a bear? Well, I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun you. So the reality is that what I'm looking for is just enough situational awareness, just enough formidability to make that guy be like, nope, you know what? 5 minutes from now, somebody else is going to come out on their phone, not paying attention, and they're going to be an easier target. And that doesn't take a whole lot. To exceed the visible threshold of situational awareness of the average person in a Walmart parking lot or places like that, it doesn't take a whole lot. And the way this manifests itself in a home defense scenario is that maybe that guy knocks you out in the parking lot, or maybe he just decides to follow you home. And frankly, this is just something you got to know about yourself. I'm not telling you to drive a jalopy and dress like a hobo, but if you're dressed to the nines with really expensive visible jewelry and driving a brand new Escalade and everything else, that violent criminal actor may be like, you know what? Instead of stealing her purse, she probably doesn't carry cash. I'm just going to follow her home. And I'm going to go through the house, and I bet there's a lot of expensive stuff there. And so the way you can mitigate that is not just by you dressing down a little bit, maybe not driving the flashiest car, that kind of thing, but also just that situational awareness. Because if you're who I just described with the flashy jewelry and the expensive car, there's probably a lot of other people shopping where you're shopping, and they're probably not paying as much attention. So the way to deter from you being selected is being a harder target than the people around you, and that's just the reality of it.
May I add something from
Please.
a perspective? I think as women, one of the biggest issues that we face is because very often when we're out in the world and we see someone that is keen on us and wanting to pay attention, we try to avoid that eye contact because I think the instinct there is that eye contact invites communication, and so we don't want to invite that communication, so we avoid it. And unfortunately, we see that in the videos all the time, that as the woman is looking away, on one level, she's behaving in a very predictable way, and I think they really skew towards predictability. So like Chris said, it's not a challenge, it's not a disrespect, it's an, I see you, I'm aware of you, I see you, and then continue on. And yeah, then you're unpredictable, if nothing else. You're not acting like 99 of the other women that are walking by trying to avoid them. They don't know if you're going to be the one that fights, that you're going to be the one that screams, that you don't behave in a predictable way. So, and what Chris, it's easy to listen to Chris and say, yeah, you're the big, strong guy. Of course they don't mess with you. But there have been studies that have shown over and over that bigger, stronger men are often chosen as victims, even over smaller women, simply because of the way they walk or their awareness or something. The same criminals will choose over and over the same victims in studies that they've done. And sometimes they can't even figure out why, but there's this instinctive thing with the gait and the confidence, and like, why did they choose the bigger man over the smaller woman? And there's just something in that confidence and awareness that you can project. So I just want to add that because women are so prone to look away to avoid that conflict.
At the end of the day, and I don't want to turn this into, and full credit for everything we're discussing here with Dr. William April. Again, look him up. His video's been posted online for free, and an amazing Dr. William April, Aprill. And if you Google unthinkable seminar, you'll get hits on him. And again, revolutionary thinker on a lot of the stuff that informed Stephanie and mine's thinking. We attended his seminar together. So I don't want to turn it into a unthinkable seminar or anything like that, but I will tell you that invariably, when it comes to particularly sexual assault in women, fighting works. And they are looking for women who are not going to fight. And generally, if you're a human predator, the women who are not going to fight are the ones who won't even look at you. The ones that'll just look at you without confrontation, but without shame, and just, and keep walking. You know what? That's different. I don't want any part of it. Invariably, abandoned sexual assaults are the ones that fight. And curiously enough, I've got a teenage daughter that I've got in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and the reason is because of William April. He said that if you have a daughter and you want her to move differently, posture, gait, and everything else in a way that reliably sets off alarms with human predators, like, no, that's something different about that one. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to let her go on, and I'm going to basically wait until my typical most desirable victim shows up that fits my template. And he said, well, the best thing you can do is basically take a teenage girl and put her in 1 year, 365 days of routine Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu lessons. Because when you teach a teenage girl how to grapple, choke people, break arms, and everything else, it's going to change the way she moves, it's going to change her confidence in her own physicality. And I've seen it with my daughter. Unfortunately, she started right as COVID hit, so she's done a lot of online stuff, but I've definitely seen it with her, and I'd highly recommend it. Because if you're comfortable choking people out, it changes the way you walk, changes the way you move, the way you carry yourself.
Can you just really briefly speak to the online stuff? Because I see a lot of that with Gracie and stuff, and they're a distance away from me. So how does the online stuff, has your daughter jumped on that pretty good and learned?
As far as jiu-jitsu training, so it's a poor substitute, and frankly, I'm a modern army combative, special operations combatives guys. I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu nothing belt because all of my grappling has been Jiu-Jitsu inspired stuff in the military. Brian Hill would be a great guy to talk to. And so my daughter continued to learn and grow, but it is a poor substitute. Like during the COVID lockdown, we were up in Washington, and she grappled. Yeah, okay. And so, and she actually, just before we moved, she actually started rolling again at her actual gym. But doing the online stuff is a poor substitute, but it's better than nothing. She continued to progress, just at a much slower rate. All right, so yeah, demeanor, paying attention, get off the phone, head on a swivel. Early warning. I see you. You're not going to sneak up on me. Because I can tell you right now is that if I were to attack Stephanie from here and basically said, hey, Stephanie, I'm going to attack you, she would be a lot better off than if I was standing right here and Stephanie was sitting right here, and without announcing it, she decided to attack me. Because she could basically just give me the John Correa or the Neil treatment, and I'm going down. So literally just spotting potential threats ahead of time provides you tremendous early warning, and you give yourself options. Because if I said, hey, Stephanie, I'm going to attack you, what would be the first thing you would think to do?
I'm going to move.
Yeah, probably get up and head out that door.
I know you pretty well.
However, if I basically get over there and block you from the doors, and that's when you realize you're in trouble, well, then you've got less options. And then dominance. Real briefly, this isn't going to be a class on the OODA loop. A lot of people pronounce this OODA loop, and that's not how Boyd pronounced it. Boyd was a fighter pilot, a legendary fighter pilot who he taught pilots, and he could basically beat anybody like 2-on-1. He was a master tactician in the air, and he created what they call the OODA loop, to kind of capture the process of aerial combat, but it applies to a lot of other stuff as well. And it's observe, orient, decide, and act. And it's basically a never-ending process where I'm a violent criminal actor. I'm hanging out in a parking lot of a convenience store watching people pull in and pump gas. Come, go, come, go. And I'm basically waiting for the one who looks like the one who's got what I want and is going to give it to me. Because I want to get paid. That's how I pay my bills. That's how feed my kids, whatever. And frankly, a lot of VCAs view themselves as working men. It's just, they just got a different job than you, that's all. And so they're sitting there and you're pumping gas and their eyes fall on you. Are you ahead of them or behind them in that cycle? They've observed you. They've oriented themselves and said, you know what, I think I'm going to go up and stick a gun in this person's face and take their wallet. And then they've made that decision, and now they're on their way to you. You're still pumping gas. Who's ahead in that cycle? You have not observed them, potentially. You have definitely not oriented yourself advantageously, and you definitely have not decided what to do about them. You're behind. So understanding, and this is again just something, if you Google OODA loop, there's a lot of really good literature. We don't have time for a full class, but effectively, and I know shopping malls are gradually going extinct, but you know in shopping malls they have those kiosks in the middle where they have like the high pressure salesman that you'll be walking, they'll be like, excuse me, I have a question, and then you stop and you're like, why did I stop? And then they get you in a verbal headlock and you're like, oh man, I want to walk away, but I don't want to be rude. And you stand there for 5 minutes listening to their pitch on real estate or soap from the Dead Sea, mud, or whatever it is. And I got wise to this, frankly, after reading up on the OODA loop and verbal judo and some other stuff. And so I came to anticipate it. I would observe, okay, I'm coming up on that kiosk where they always interrupt me, bug me. And so I would preload. They see me, but they think I'm an unsuspecting customer and they're going to do their thing. And so they'd be like, excuse me, I have a question. I'm like, what's your favorite color? And like they would stop dead. Why? Because I had observed them, I had oriented myself, I had decided what I was going to do, and then I acted in a way that they were not, anticipating at all. Dude comes up to you at a gas pump. Maybe he literally does just want money for gas. Maybe he's going to rob you. But if he comes up and he's already decided what he's going to do, he thinks he knows how it's going to play out, he's got a mental map for this confrontation, and then he says, hey, excuse me, sir, I'm trying to get to, and you're like, hey, what's your middle name? Now, is that going to be unanimously effective? Is he just going to like turn and run away because you asked his middle name? No. But all of a sudden he's like, wait a minute, this isn't how this was supposed to go. You know what? And maybe it does work. Maybe he's like, what'd you say? And then punch you in the face. However, interrupting somebody else's OODA loop and interrupting their cycle is probably better than allowing yours to be interrupted. So that's something to think about as it relates to, Craig Douglas does a bunch of great coursework on managing unknown contacts, basically dealing with strangers and kind of getting into some verbal sparring, if you will. Craig Douglas from Shiverworks, highly recommend him. Reclaim Initiative, which is kind of that, what's your middle name, what's your favorite color? Like, wait a minute, I thought I was asking the questions. I thought I was the predator, and this person's crazy, I'm uncomfortable, and I'm back on my heels. Verbal agility, and also just eliminating ego. If somebody challenges you, like, don't take emotions out of it. Somebody insults you, somebody, whatever. Eliminate your ego and don't allow yourself to get sucked into confrontations that are going to follow you home, potentially.